I'd like to call the February 23rd, 2023 Board of Commissioners Business Meeting to order. Tonight, for our Pledge of Allegiance, we will have Officer Montana Lightheart lead us. Thank you, Officer Lightheart. Before we do anything else this evening, we'd like to have a moment of silence for the tragic loss of one of our heroes in blue, Temple University police officer Christopher Fitzgerald. We'd like to extend our deepest condolences to all his loved ones. Deanna, will you do the roll call?
Denise Hall, President.
Here.
Catherine Carter, Vice President. Martha Similaro, Commissioner. Ruth Damsker, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zadell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Lauren Gallagher, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Isaac Kessler, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police.
Here.
Nathan Crittenden, Finance Director.
Here.
And it is noted that Commissioner Liz McNaney and Zoning Officer Van Reeker are absent.
Thank you, Deanna. Lauren, were there any executive sessions?
There were not.
Thank you, Lauren. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Chief Duffy.
So, you might have heard this before, but if you haven't, hear it again.
Don't forget the crowd at home, Chief.
I know, gotcha. Thank
Yeah.
you. Our mission is to perform police services in a highly professional and ethical manner in partnership with the community that we serve and to whom we are accountable. And we carry out our mission with our core values of fairness, integrity, dedication. Oh my gosh, what's the fourth one? Courage. Thanks, man. Montana needed coaching on the pledge, I'm just saying. And our motto is community first. So we're here to celebrate our mission being carried out above and beyond the call of duty with some commendations. We'd like to first call up Officer Montana Lightheart. Okay. Officer Lightheart was also just recognized by the Lansdale VFW Veterans of Florence Ward, post number 32, as their Officer of the Year. So congratulations on that. And I'd like to read this off. On November 10th, 2022, at 15:41 hours, Officer Montana Lightheart was on patrol when he came upon a vehicle stopped in the right lane of the 700 block of Sunnytown Pike. He observed the driver, a 41-year-old female township resident, slumped to the right side with some blood coming out of her mouth. She was not responsive to Officer Lightheart. Officer Lightheart broke the driver's side window and determined the woman did not have a pulse. Officer Fred Lynch arrived on scene and assisted Officer Lightheart in pulling the woman out of the vehicle. Officer Lightheart performed CPR while Officer Lynch attempted to administer an AED shock until members of North Penn Volunteer Medical Service Corps arrived. The woman did not regain a pulse. However, the woman did regain a pulse. However, she lived for several days and eventually passed away. While very sad and unfortunate, this time allowed her to be with her family and have them cope with her death, as well as arrange for her organs to be donated. That would not have been possible without the extraordinary efforts of Officers Lightheart and Officer Lynch. Officer Lynch is also receiving commendations, couldn't be here tonight. Therefore, Officers Montana Lightheart and Frederick Lynch are recognized and commended for their quick thinking, teamwork, and life-saving efforts in this critical incident. Their performance on behalf of this woman and her family was in the highest traditions of the department. Thank you very much. Good job. Yep. I'd like to call up Sergeant Pro and Detective Gill.
Congratulations.
Gentlemen, I wrote this before you got promoted, so you're going to be detective in this one. Whereas on April 16th, 2022, at 19:22 hours, Upper Gwynedd Police began an investigation into a reported shooting that occurred in the 600 block of Sunnytown Pike. The case was assigned to Detectives Robert Pro and Jonathan Gill. It was learned that a male victim was shot while driving his vehicle. The suspect was also driving when he fired the handgun, resulting in serious head injuries to the victim. The suspect also shot a female victim through the leg soon thereafter. Whereas Detectives Pro and Gill were able to establish a rapport with the female victim and she provided the suspect's identity. The investigation involved a substantial amount of evidence retrieval and processing, including video, as well as several interviews, search warrants, and other tasks necessary to prepare the appropriate charges against the suspect. Detective Pro worked with the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force, which led to the arrest of the suspect in Philadelphia. After he was taken into custody during a lengthy interview, the suspect confessed. Therefore, Detectives Robert Pro and Jonathan Gill are recognized for their actions in professionally handling this complex investigation and arrest, as well as treating the victims with care and compassion, which improved the reputation of the department and our relationship with the community that we serve. Thank you, sir. Yep. I'd like to call up Sergeant Culture and Officer Lightheart.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations.
So we're going from a life-saving, heroic life-saving efforts and a shooting, double shooting, to a dog in a PVC type pipe. This is not something that we train for in the police academy. Upper Gwynedd Police, we're a very service-oriented department. We work hard to partner with the community and keep crime down. We give the community most of the credit for that, but we do our best to keep crime low. And we respond to calls that some other police departments may not. And in this circumstance, this is one where they really could have just told the county this is not a police matter and not gone at all. When they got there, they could have said the same thing, but they didn't. So whereas on May 26, 2022 at 16:31 hours, then Officer Culture in Montana Lightheart responded to a residence in the 400 block of Sweetsford Road for a report of a dog stuck in an underground PVC pipe in the middle of the yard. Instead of telling the owner this was not a police matter, suggesting a private company handle it, or referring the matter to another emergency service agency, Officers Culture and Lightheart took it upon themselves to handle the rescue. It took an hour and required a lot of digging and cutting of the pipe itself. Eventually, the dog, Una, was freed, much to the relief of its owners. Therefore, Officers Harry Culture and Montana Lightheart are recognized and commended for performing a community service above and beyond the call of duty, and by doing so, improving the reputation of the department and the relationship with the residents that we have. Good job. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was a good one. I'll leave it up here for you.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you.
And President Hull, I'm going to turn this over to the Deputy Chief for Sergeant Pro's recognition. Is that okay?
Sergeant Pro. So Sergeant Pro is being recognized for 15 years of service here at Upper Gwynedd Township Police Department. Presently, he's our traffic safety coordinator. He deals with the complaints that residents file with speeding, trucks, stop sign violations in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. As he was recognized as the detective, he's been in detectives for a couple of years, got promoted. He's back on the street as a sergeant. We'll see where his future goes, if he comes back in detectives or not. He's got some pretty good skills there. He's a field training officer right now. He's supervising our newest officers. He's part of that unit. And he's also the JTAC for our department. JTAC is JNet, where we're able to run people, the vehicles, the driver's license, all that stuff. He's in charge of making sure that our department is in line and accredited with that service. So, and last but not least, like I said, he's just been promoted to sergeant. He's one of our newly sergeants that's out on the street, and we thank you for your 15 years of service. Glad working with you.
Right, yeah. Congratulations on being a sergeant, too.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to our police department for, well, most importantly, keeping us safe. I mean, that's the thing that we most appreciate the police for. But thank you for sharing with us your most recent promotions and team accomplishments and honors over the last 2 months at our public meetings. You all do so much and go above and beyond with doing so many things that we're not even aware of, that it's really wonderful when we as a community can celebrate you, because we don't do it enough, and I wish we did. So thank you so much. And continuing with our police spotlight this meeting, we are very lucky to have 2 police officers from our state police department here this evening to share a presentation with us in honor of Black History Month. I'd now like to turn the meeting over to Sergeant Timothy Green and Lieutenant William Slayton.
Very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
No worries. Where's the mic? Thank you. Good evening. Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Good to see everyone. Thank you for having us, Chief. Sandra, thank you for the invitation. My name is Lieutenant William Slayton. I'm with the Pennsylvania State Police, and this is Sergeant Timothy Green, who's with my office. I am the commander of the Pennsylvania State Police Heritage Affairs Section. In honor of Black History Month, the Chief and Sandra thought it'd be prudent for me to come here to explain exactly what it is to promote diversity and address hate and bias within the Commonwealth. So I command our State Police Heritage Affairs Section. We have 5 Heritage Affairs Liaison Officers, which Sergeant Green is one of them, strategically assigned to every quadrant of the state that the Pennsylvania State Police covers. What do? We monitor and respond to hate and bias crime all throughout the Commonwealth, instances that you don't even hear of. Not too far from here, we had an African-American female running late for work, just wanted to go to Dunkin' Donuts, get a cup of coffee. She accidentally bumped into a gentleman. He started assaulting her and called her a racial slur. We also had a Russian female that was brutally assaulted by a Ukrainian male, and the assault was motivated by the war in Ukraine. He was upset what Russia was doing to his country, put her in the hospital. The female he assaulted, the Russian female, was his wife. And we also had people flying swastika flags all throughout the Commonwealth, you name it. So this is the type of hate and bias that we address from Philadelphia all the way to Pittsburgh to Erie. In addition to addressing and responding to hate and bias throughout the Commonwealth, our office responds to instances of civil tension. What I mean by civil tension are concerns of the community that often boil over and lead to protests, violence in the streets, mistrust between law enforcement and the community. So we work with law enforcement leaders, legislators, community leaders, activists to have discussions and ensure that we can resolve things amicably. Some of our most prominent tension response team activations include the Tree of Life Synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh. We responded to that. Antoine Rose Jr. shooting in East Pittsburgh, where unarmed 17-year-old male was shot in the back and killed by a white police officer. The community was beside themselves. They wanted to destroy the city. So we had to respond to that and engage with law enforcement leaders, community activists, and so forth. And the list goes on and on and on. Outside of monitoring and responding to hate and bias crime, outside of addressing civil tension throughout the Commonwealth, we also teach. We teach local police officers, as well as our state police cadets, subjects that surround cultural competency. So they're aware of different cultures and how to respond to certain cultures. We've taught let me back up. To date, we've taught over 4,000 police officers free of charge in subjects that surround cultural competency, and your agency was one of them. We were in here teaching the officers the history of policing in America, minority engagement. And the reason why we teach that one, a lot of police officers do not know policing in the South was built on slavery. Police in the South were slave catchers, and there are actual badges that say Slave Patrol. So we teach that foundation, then we go into the civil rights movement, and then we go into present day issues and we discuss them at length. We also teach implicit bias awareness, racial profiling awareness, de-escalation strategies. A lot of police officers need to know how to be able to de-escalate. We're supposed to be above reproach. I've been called every name in the book on this job, and I can't react violently to someone for calling me that name. I need to be able to compose myself and do my job and effect the arrest. I am proud to say that those 4,000 police officers that we've trained throughout the Commonwealth, 4,000 plus, it's all been word of mouth. We have not created one training flyer, sent out one training announcement. It's just chiefs, such as your chief, sitting in the audience, witnessing a training, saying, you know what, I think this would be great for our department. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. So we try to combat hate and bias throughout the Commonwealth and make sure your voices are heard as well as community members. Not too long ago, a group similar to the KKK visited a town here in Pennsylvania, and they wanted to march through the town and visit restaurants wearing their garb and things of that sort. So we had to work with business leaders to teach them how to address situations like that. So we're here for you as well, just like we're here for the chief and his officers. Anything you want to add, sir? Any questions or comments? Sir?
What is your phone number to reach you?
I have cards. I brought plenty of cards. All right, I'll give you that, sir. Any other?
The name of the group that wanted to march?
It was the National Socialist Movement, NSM. Yeah.
Good job, because we don't hear about it.
A lot of what we do, thank you, a lot of what we do you do not hear of, which is a good thing. We work behind the scenes to make sure, you know, the city doesn't get destroyed, the community needs to be heard, and things of that sort. In addition to that, I forgot to add, we also work with community members and community groups to promote a better relationship between law enforcement and the community. So if this community has an event such as Community Day or something to that effect, we can have state police horses here. If there's
Oh,
room-
yeah, we have one.
Good.
It's called the Carnival, and it's awesome.
Okay. Well,
We get a lot of people at that event.
If there's room to land our helicopter, we can bring the helicopter out.
Ooh, we love
We have
helicopters.
horses, helicopters, bomb robots, specialized dogs that are trained. So we love to show the community the different toys that we have to try to recruit from the community. They can see these resources that we have and hopefully join the state police. There's so many different opportunities on this job. I was fortunate enough to serve as a negotiator on our special emergency response team. Did that for about 5 years. Loved every moment of it. Any other questions or comments? I answered everything? Any questions? Sir?
What was your background? How'd you go? Not only the state police.
Oh, wow. All right. On a personal note, and I'm only sharing this because you asked, because I don't, normally share this type of information. I grew up in a very impoverished community. I was born and raised in Camden, New Jersey, which is one of the most dangerous cities in America, if you're not familiar with it. I grew up in a single parent household. I grew up in an environment that was replete with gang violence, drug addiction, drug usage, you name it. The police department was actually disbanded because a federal investigation revealed that they were planting drugs on minorities. So they were racially profiling. So young men looked like me or Sergeant Green go in front of the judge. Your Honor, that's not mine. This police officer planted that on me. Who do you think the judge is going to believe? The police officer. So it's a miracle that I didn't get wrapped up in that situation. So I made it out, went to college, joined the state police, and the rest is history. If you know anyone interested in law enforcement, this career is a fantastic career. I've met governors, senators, presidents, vice presidents, you name it. Experiences I would never think I would have in a million years by joining this department. So if you have any grandsons, granddaughters, nieces, nephew, whoever, you think might be a deal for the state police, we'll make sure I share my contact information with you and send them in my direction. Thanks for asking. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? Sergeant Green, he's being bashful over here. Tell them about the history you made with the.
So I grew up in Delaware County, went to Temple University for civil engineering, got an engineering degree, but I was like a caged animal. I did not like being behind the desk. I like being out in the community. So one of the things that I started was 16 years old, I joined the volunteer fire company. I worked my way up through the ranks up to the chief of the department. I was the first and only African-American to hold that title as chief of the fire department. Went to, like I said, Temple University, and then went over to the Pennsylvania State Police, was in patrol down in Delaware County for about 14 years. I was also the troop public information officer, which covers Philadelphia, Montgomery, and Delaware counties. And then when I got promoted to corporal, went over to Avondale State Police Barracks, was the patrol supervisor there. Went over to Heritage Affairs, joined Lieutenant Slayton there, and then I was promoted to sergeant and stayed in place there. So that's what I have. Family of 5, 3 little kids, and a lovely wife, and a little dog. So that's my lifestyle.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Excellent. Can we share my contact information on the screen at some point, maybe towards the end, or can you disseminate it?
I don't know if we can edit it that way, but I would say interested residents can contact me and I'll pass along your info.
Yeah, I don't know if I have enough cards for everyone. I'll make sure this gentleman gets one. Couple more. Thank you.
Lieutenant Slayton, I just want to see, does the board have any comments or?
Do you have any questions?
No, just thank you. I appreciate you coming out. I attended the DEI workshop that Chief Duffy had a couple of, I think I did one in January, and then Martha did one in February. And that's where we met the state police officers and asked them if they would come and do our Black History. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come out. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize. I kept calling you Sandra. I apologize for that. They were both instrumental in getting us here, as well as the chief. I mean, this chief is very proactive with his officers. Before every single training, he's given a speech to his officers to motivate them, encourage them to read certain books and what they need to do for the community. So you're very fortunate to have a chief like that. And thank you all for having us here. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Slayton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Slayton. Thank you, Sergeant Green. We really appreciate you coming this evening. Thank you for that presentation. That was wonderful. We have one more informative presentation this evening, and it is the Water Quality Improvement Plan presentation. I would like to turn the meeting over now to Brandon Ford. He's the WQIP Chairman and Assistant Township Manager of Springfield Township, Drew Shaw from Montgomery County Planning Commission, and Aaron Landis from Wissahickon Trails. Take it away.
I'm sorry you have such a hard act to follow.
I was going to say puppies and pipes. That's kind of rescuing puppies. Come on.
I think I can talk into here, yeah.
We split it up. So
For the viewing pleasure of those at home, just make sure whoever's speaking is speaking into the microphone.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. We're going to try to keep it pretty quickly, just to respect your time. So we're here for the Wissahickon Clean Water Partnership, and thank you so much for the introductions. My name is Aaron Landis. Next slide. So just a really fast background on the Wissahickon Clean Water Partnership. This is a voluntary collaboration among 12 municipalities and the city of Philadelphia, and also 4 wastewater treatment plants. As you can see, over 90% of the area in the Wissahickon watershed is included in the municipalities that are participating in this partnership. And I should have said, Upper Gwynedd is a member of this partnership, you may have guessed. One thing we all know is that water does not abide by political boundaries. So it is so important that we all work together in order to protect this hugely valuable resource. We've been working together on this initiative for a while, and we are excited to talk about next steps moving forward. So I will turn it over to Drew.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for inviting us here tonight. Just very quickly, this project got started shortly after the EPA and the DEP issued what's called the draft TMDL for phosphorus for the Wissahickon Creek. Sounds scary, but it's not. A TMDL is a regulatory number. When a creek is designated as impaired, the impairment, in this case phosphorus, is studied, and DEP and EPA say there should be this much phosphorus in the creek, but there's actually this much. And then that difference gets divided up among the people contributing wastewater, stormwater to the Wissahickon, and it becomes your responsibility to get it out. So when they came out with this draft TMDL in 2015, everybody looked at it and said, this sounds very complicated, very expensive, very complex, possibly not even attainable. And very quickly, it seemed like we were going down the road towards litigation, which nobody really wanted. So the EPA actually said, we have this option. It's called the TMDL alternative. And it gives more control to the municipalities in deciding how they're going to go about improving water quality, in this case in the Wissahickon. So that's what we've been doing since shortly after 2015. We did prepare a plan, submitted it. It was reviewed. We got comments back from the DEP and EPA. We've been addressing those comments with them. It's been a very cooperative, surprisingly cooperative process. Often when you're dealing with regulatory agencies, it's much more banging your head against each other. And we are preparing the revised plan. Everybody will get a chance to look at it, but we're preparing the revised plan to resubmit it. So next slide, please. I just wanted to use this as a graphic. This portrays in a picture what we're trying to achieve. The blue line there on the bottom is the, I guess, the current effort, you could say. Everybody has a MS4 permit, a municipal separate storm sewer permit through the DEP program. And the work you're doing there could be represented by the blue line. The yellow line that's showing a ramped up effort, that's the additional effort involving the water quality improvement plan, where we will be implementing projects on the ground, green stormwater infrastructure, but also encouraging adoption of ordinances to protect water quality, to put in riparian buffers, and so on, things that will help improve water quality. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandon.
And I'll take it home real quick. No puppies involved. So, to kind of elaborate a little bit on what both Aaron and Drew, who represent, both the nonprofit from Wissahickon Trails and the county on the municipal rep. So, I have a board similar to yours that I have to respond to, and I have to sell it. So what this boils down to is, do we go this alone, or do we work together on achieving this regulatory mandate from DEP, which for those in the audience is the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection and the US EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. So those are the federal and state level agencies that regulate these environmental obligations that each of our 12 municipalities must adhere to. And
Unfunded regulation
Yes.
mandates.
Thank you, Sandra. That was the next one. These mandates are required. So each one of our 12 municipalities for wastewater treatment plants, and even the city of Philadelphia, must adhere to these mandates, these requirements. This rule down from the federal and state officials saying the Wissahickon watershed must meet X level of phosphorus. So what the partnership represents is a collaborative effort. So instead of each one of us individually going alone, we will collectively work together. And there are a lot of different benefits to that. In addition to, teamwork makes the dream work mantra that I live by. It makes compliance a lot easier. Rather than chopping up the Wissahickon watershed into 12 different jurisdictions, we look at it as a whole. And what we hope to do through the Water Quality Improvement Plan is not only address phosphorus, but take a more holistic approach. We understand that phosphorus isn't the only thing wrong with our waterways. So what we hope to achieve through the projects that we have outlined in the plan is an overall holistic approach to watershed management. And again, making dollars and cents out of it by working together and spreading out the cost of these projects, it eases the budgetary constraints on each one of our municipalities. Next slide, please. And I believe in results. So since 2015 or thereabouts, we've been working on this. And I will admit that a lot of this has been kind of, behind the scenes, working with planning experts, getting the plan itself together, identifying different projects to work on. We have made significant progress. As Drew shared, we did submit our draft plan. We did get feedback on that draft plan, and we are currently working through the revisions of that plan that we hope to resubmit to DEP within the next 2 months. And we've also identified those projects, like I said, across the watershed. And even more, we've actually secured about $1.5 million in County Rescue Act. So that's $1.5 million that will go into actual projects throughout the watershed that will help each one of us meet those obligations coming down from DEP and the EPA. Next slide, please. So moving forward, what we're looking at. So as I shared, in the next 2 months, we're looking to resubmit that draft water quality plan. And the best news is that even while we wait for the DEP and EPA to approve that plan, we have already gotten the money in the bank, so to speak, from Montgomery County. So we are moving ahead with implementation. While the feds and the state look over the plan, we're working together on looking at what this partnership looks like moving forward as we get into implementation. We will be visiting all the municipalities once again, once we have a draft implementation agreement together to get everyone to buy in, saying this is how we're going to get these projects done, and this is how we're funding it. And then shovels in the ground and improvements throughout the watershed. So with that, I think we'll open it up to any questions from the board. And
Does anyone have any questions on the board? Good staff? No.
Wow.
Anyone have any questions in the crowd? Beth?
As residents, what would we notice from what you're
well, there will be tangible water.
Brandon, could you answer in the microphone? The question was, as residents, what would we notice as a result of this project?
So I would believe the immediate notice is that instead of your township facing this obligation, this unfunded mandate alone, you're working with all 12 municipalities in Montgomery County. So when you're looking at a large project to do to meet this obligation, you're not looking at just Upper Gwynedd facing the bill for that. You'll have Springfield Township, where I work, also contributing, and all the other municipalities as well. So that's, in your pocket, impact, as well as water quality improvement.
Could I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
The plan itself has a list of proposed projects, stormwater basin retrofits, rain gardens, green stormwater infrastructure. So a lot of that is going to be implemented on municipal property where possible. We'll get institutions involved, large landholders involved. So you may see new, naturalized, hopefully attractive looking stormwater facilities that reduce flooding some. It's mostly a water quality improvement plan, but by restoring the hydrology, getting the water cycle back to what it should be, we hope to restore water quality, and that should have a flood and reducing impact as well. Yeah, sure.
Hi, Mark Connolly, 11 Kearney Drive. I guess my question, just kind of going back to basics, because I don't really know the science behind this, but could you explain kind of what would create, basically, why is the phosphorus high? Like, what are the types of things that contribute to it? Is it farms? Is it construction? Is it industrial? Like, that kind of.
How much time do I have? No, it's a really interesting question. And actually, we had Temple University, Philadelphia Water Department, we have a couple consultants looking at that very question. And interestingly enough, we found that the groundwater itself has a relatively high level of phosphorus, but most of the phosphorus, additional phosphorus, coming from two sources. One is the wastewater treatment plants, and two is stormwater runoff. The problem with the TMDL, if I could, is the level of reduction that it was requiring from the wastewater treatment plants was extremely high, 98%, 99% phosphorus reduction in some places, which is really difficult and very expensive to achieve. So we're looking to, again, run a lot of the stormwater through green stormwater infrastructure, which improves water quality before it reaches the stream to get that phosphorus and sediment and some other things out.
Anyone else have a question? George, can you come up to the microphone so everyone can hear?
Yeah, I don't really need it, but anyway, I guess my question is, when you come up with these different, tasks or projects to reduce the contaminants within the stormwater, I'm sure you're going to focus a lot on sediment removal, right? Because the number one contaminant in the world in stormwater is sediment, correct?
We agree.
I know, because one, being a civil engineer, happiness, but two, the creek that lives or is by where we live, when we moved in, it used to have a profile. Now it's flat because it's been all sedimented over. So, and a lot of phosphorus and other compounds adhere to, sediment,
Right.
and then travel down the creeks, rivers, etc. That's why the Philadelphia Corps of Engineers dredges the Delaware continuously, right? All right.
You're absolutely right. The projects that we're proposing, the stormwater benefits will be more than just getting phosphorus out and controlling stormwater runoff. Anytime you slow the water down, the sediment drops out. So we'll be removing sediment and those nutrients that were attached to it.
Were there any other questions?
Good question.
Okay. Oh,
These people have been stating who they are and where they live.
Oh,
I'll go out.
that's not for you guys. You're
All
safe.
right. Thank you. I'm George Cressman. I live at 612 Brookwood Lane. If you want my phone number or cell, I'll give it to you afterwards, or I hand out cards. So.
thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate
Thanks,
you
guys.
coming
We
today.
appreciate it.
I think we all learned a lot. Thank you. Next, we have the public comments. Oh, does someone else have a question? Oh, Beth, go ahead.
Beth Miller, 405 West Prospect Avenue. I think I am the only sinner who did not identify herself. My apologies, Mike.
That's okay, Beth. Next, we have the public comments. Please state your name and if you are a resident or non-resident when you come to the right mic. Thank you for respecting the 5-minute rule and practicing decorum. Our goal is to always give you the most complete and correct answers to your questions from our staff who are experts in each of their areas. For that reason, you have the option of enclosing your email address in the registry if you'd like us to reach out to you during the week with full answers to your questions. We had some residents who were concerned that if we answered any questions offline, that the residents who wanted to hear the answer publicly would be left out. So we will continue to share any answers to questions that were posed publicly but answered privately at the following public meeting. First up for public comments this evening is Carl Smith.
Carl Smith, 815 McIntosh Way, and yes, I am a resident, in case you've forgotten. Maybe you would like to forget, but be that as it may. My comments are specifically about Cornerstone at Pembroke. Weeks have gone by, it's turning into months since this topic has been discussed. We haven't gotten any updates. I think it's a relevant question for the citizens to get an answer from this body for several reasons. One, we need to know if this project's dead. Need to know if it's in a state of permanent limbo and going to be resurrected at some point. We don't have any idea what to expect. We also know that this board, given its history, is predisposed to high-density housing and is favorable towards it. So I'd like to know if this is still in view and, if anything else is coming down the pike I need to be concerned about. And other residents that share my viewpoint. And finally, it'd be nice to give this board an opportunity to honor its claim of transparency. Because when it comes to this issue, in my opinion, you failed miserably. And let me illustrate. For many meetings, I've come here, several meetings, and asked this board what has been going on with this issue as it relates to the Walters Group, the funding associated with it, and the zoning. It did not make sense to me that the county would allow and get $1.3 million to a development company without the zoning, unless they had some kind of indication from this group they were going to support the zoning change. So every time I asked the question, many times, I was told it's inappropriate, it's premature, and it's early in the process. But finally, I did get an answer in August of last year. I got an answer in the workshop meeting. Well, I asked the question in the workshop meeting on the 8th of August, and Sandra responded to me by email before the 16th meeting and copied all of you on the board. In this email, I'm going to read it. It's a short one. It says, "Hi, Carl. As I prepare for tonight's meeting, I realized that you asked if we had sent any letter supporting the Walters Group grant application to the county. I wanted to let you know we did not. Township commissioners nor any staff member sent a letter of support or supported the application in any way. I didn't get any response from any of you challenging that assertion, so I'm pretty confident that's the public position for this board, that you're not supporting this effort in any way. However, there was a letter that we've found in April of the same year, several months prior. It's from the attorney, Joseph Clement, written to his client, which is the Walters Group, assuring them that they do have your support. And I'll read the last paragraph. It says, "The Township's Planning Review Committee and Board of Commissioners has requested that the township staff work with us to draft a developer proposed zoning ordinance for consideration by the Board of Commissioners based on the principles set forth in the TOD." So the attorney feels that he has the support. He's asserting it to his client or reaffirming it to his client. And he's including this letter in his application for funding from the county, which he did get, by the way. So it's pretty clear that we have two realities. We have the attorney's reality where he's got the support from you. We have the public reality where you tell us that stonewall us, tell us none of our business as citizens, and that we don't need to know this information. And by the way, this letter was not gotten with your cooperation. It was gotten in spite of your cooperation. So my questions are simple for this board. One, where do we stand with the Walters Group and this Cornerstone at Pembroke? And two, when can we get truthful information and answers from this board?
First of all, I do want to correct one thing. Cornerstone at Pembroke was the newspaper reporter's name for that development. There is no Cornerstone at Pembroke. There never has been. That was just the name that he used to describe that land development, which was being discussed. But as we have shared with you, it was being discussed at our PRC, which is a safe environment for any developer to come and discuss ideas. There was not an official application submitted. Once an official plan is submitted and legally goes through all the appropriate channels, then we officially will start acting on it. And that is when Van will start sharing in his monthly reports what that information is. And we will start sharing it with people. But until that point, those meetings are once a month, and they are a creative process for any developer anywhere to come up with any idea, just to get feedback from all the experts at the township. It's very productive because nothing is set in stone and nothing is committed to at all. Not approval, not support, nothing. It's just an information session that we share. So I can tell you that that's where that stands. Since we last gave you an update, there has been no progress at all. We haven't heard anything. Nothing has been submitted. They haven't come to the PRC meetings. There's been nothing. Nothing. There's been absolutely no progress.
Is there a statute of limitations when this just expires, or do we just expect to have this be resurrected out of the blue? Like,
Again, they haven't officially applied. There's
Yes,
been
they did
no.
apply.
Well, they submitted an application for a zoning change. There is no mechanism to force that through. There is no time limitation on that. The applicant withdraws it, then they withdraw it. If they ask us to place it on a hearing, then the board can consider whether or not they want to have the hearing on it. But the only thing pending, the only thing we submitted to the township is the application for zoning relief. There is no land development plan submitted.
We've reported on publicly since April of this year.
Right, because once
So there's
something
no surprise.
officially goes through the channels and they officially apply for something, then we share it, but
Which
no
they did in March,
actual,
and then it was on the April agenda, our next possible chance to speak about it publicly.
but no actual land development plan has been proposed. And that's why I was sharing with you that the name that you've coined is the name that the reporter came up with, because there's no official name of this development because there's no development plan.
I asked specifically about that name when it first came up in the article, and no one gave me any information. I was.
You were given the information that the township had not heard that name, that the first time the township heard that name was in that article.
Right. Well, we're clarifying it right now.
If you want to answer questions, how come the attorney is under the impression he has your support? When we're told.
You'd have to ask their attorney.
What's that?
You'd have to ask their attorney.
Okay. I'm asking you because you're the elected officials that report to the citizens.
Carl,
The
did,
fact that there's two narratives out there is not a good thing.
Carl, we tried to explain it to you the best of our knowledge. If you have any other questions? No? Okay, thank you so much. Next up is Linda Smith.
Can you hear me? Okay. I just would like to make a comment about this high density affordable housing. I was listening to Betsy McCoy. She's the former lieutenant governor of New York. And she was saying that this is really going to impact our life. It's an attack on our private property. It's an attack on our homes. It's an attack on our neighborhoods and communities, our values, our culture, our family, and our way of life. And one example is Kathy Hochul, her housing compact, which will require towns in New York to build affordable housing within a half a mile of a train stop. That's going to destroy those beautiful towns along the Hudson. And when I heard that, it was resonating. That's what was going on down here at Pembroke train station, the half mile and high density affordable housing. And owning a house is an American dream. 68% of Americans own single family homes. If high density subsidized housing hits Upper Gwynedd, our property values will suffer. And home is our biggest asset. I just renovated our home totally, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I worked hard for that home. My husband and I, that was our third home when we were only in our 20s. And my husband did a lot of hard work and I worked hard to get there. I do not want that property value to go down. And this is like Marxism, because it's saying that it's not fair for some people to have more than others, even if they saved and worked hard for it. And it's going to destroy our neighborhoods and is imposing zoning wills on us. And as I've mentioned before,
I can see that there's something going on back there. Please, yeah, please, let's all not make any comments. And Mr. Smith, I would ask that you maybe just take a breath. Everyone should be keeping quiet so Mrs. Smith can speak. Sorry to interrupt you, Linda.
the 2020 comprehensive plan, keep going back to that. 95% of the Upper Gwynedd residents said that Upper Gwynedd is an excellent to good place to live. That's not just Republicans or Democrats or independents. That's the 95% of the residents that are here. The residents of this township, through that comprehensive plan, through the questions that were answered, could clearly see they don't want this happening to our beautiful, peaceful community and to affect our way of life and what we have worked so hard to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next up, we have William Jackson.
William Jackson, 664 Park Road. Here as a resident, also as a member of the bicycle advocacy group Bike North Penn. I wanted to speak tonight in support of the resolution that's on the agenda for funding of the first segment of the Liberty Bell Trail. I'm glad to see that that's moving forward. Also wanted to compliment the bike lane that's also planned to go in with the resurfacing of South Broad Street. Our group is very active right now with Lansdale Borough, trying to get them to also add on to their section of the South Broad as it gets into Lansdale Borough. So we're trying to enhance the investment that this township is making in those resources and features. And it seems like it's a good combination of investment, both in the trails and in the bike lanes when those two things come together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Does anyone else have another comment who didn't have time to do the registry? Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Connolly, 11 Kearney Drive. So I've stated that for the record. So I just also wanted to comment on that resolution with regard to the trail. I am also in support of the trail. I definitely think it will have a positive impact on our community. And I believe this is for a grant, right? So anytime we don't have to pay for it with our taxpayer dollars and somebody else can pay for it, that is great. So, and I am not going to talk about the Dickerson Road Improvement Project, so I will leave that to the side. So I'm excited for more trail building. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Okay, I don't see anyone else, so let's move on. Next, we have the approval of the tax credit for our residents who volunteer for either the Upper Gwynedd Fire Department or the North Penn Fire Department in North Wales. Do we have a motion to approve the submissions from the Upper Gwynedd Fire Department and the North Penn Fire Department for the volunteer tax credits?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Our next motion is for the relocation of our server network to a more optimum location, which just happens to be in the police department. Do we have a motion to approve the proposal by Integra One for the relocation of the township's server network in the amount of $76,390?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Yes, George, come to the mic, please.
All right, thank you. Do I need to repeat where I live again?
No.
You're not required to state your address. We only ask people to identify themselves as resident or not resident.
I'm a resident, been here 30 years. So my simple question is, I mean, that's a lot of money to relocate. How many bids were received for this project?
So, Mr. Cressman, bids aren't required for professional services. We are using our regular IT company to do this work because they're familiar with our network. And yes, it is a lot of money, but we can't have our entire IT system get demolished because we have like a wet event and it all gets wet. That would be a real waste of money. So we're doing this to protect our investment.
Okay, so who scrutinized the bid to make sure it was a fair
The
Nate, do you
finance
wanna
director
come
and
up and
myself did that, yes.
number?
Chat a little bit
Staff.
about the whole process.
And again, it's not a bid, it was a proposal, so just a term of art.
No problem. So when we looked at the original proposal from Integra One, I myself come from financing and an IT background as well. Our current server is sitting in a closet where it's unsecure. Also, there's a health hazard that is caused if those fire suppression systems do get activated for any reason or tripped for any reason. You are using a chemical and powder-based suppression system. If any of the members of the staff were to breathe that in, it could cause severe hazard to their health. So after reviewing that, we were able to look at it. The original proposal was a lot more expensive because when you're talking about moving a server room, not only are you talking about going into walls, rerunning drops, you're also talking about rerunning plumbing because you have to have that fire suppression system go out, which the plumbing alone can cost you almost $100,000. So what we were able to do is talk to our chief of police. We already identified they have a server room. And if we can reconstruct some things, that will save us that money. So by doing this, we have saved over $100,000 based off of my experience in the field and dealing with this, because you're actually talking about now you're not having to hire an additional plumber, run an HVAC line, as well as now you have to create a server backup system For power as well, you're talking about running new electrical lines so that they're running to an independent generator. Not too long ago, I'm not sure if it affected any of you as the residents, but we had a trash truck knock down some electrical lines, which took everything off. We have to have our service system backed up for that, because if you need to replace that all in one shot, typically for an average service system, about an organization of our size, you'd spend for a brand new server altogether around $500,000. So I'm pretty sure the residents, when you're comparing what we are proposing versus $500,000, that has a much more safe budgetary impact. So not only are we backing the system up so that you as residents, we can perform our jobs here, we can also respond to any questions you have to the board, and it allows us to be a little bit more professional in our fields. It does lessen that load. So we went originally, the original quote was starting somewhere around just under 200. We asked them to go sharpen their pencils and identify different ways. We did multiple surveys, and we were able to get that down to $76,000. I'm very proud of that number.
Right.
But I just want to make sure you know, it is a high number, but it is a lot lower than what it originally was anticipated to be.
Yeah, I'm familiar because sometimes when you reroute things in older buildings, you deal with what? Lead paint issue, asbestos in the ceilings, et
Jesus
cetera,
Christ.
et cetera. So
You got to do
I
the
get
abatement.
it. I just wanted to ask the question,
problem.
and you answered my question.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Nate. Thank you, George. Okay, so all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next up are our consent items, A through K. Do we have a motion to approve consent items A through K?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Deanna, will you do the roll call?
President Hall,
Aye.
Vice President Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Simularo,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsker.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I will now turn the meeting over to Commissioner Carter.
We have a motion to approve the purchase of 2 patrol vehicles for the police department from CoStar's vendor, New Holland Ford, in the amount of $83,200.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments?
I'm just going to remind the public that this is part of the budget. There's no, in any excess, this is part of the budget and the process that Chief Duffy goes through with 2 cars 1 year, 1 car the following year. There's no other budget concerns.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Damsker, you don't have anything on the agenda this evening. Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, but I think that I was really impressed with our acknowledging the Black History Month and the people that came and shared that information, which was something I was unaware of. So I think that was particularly, and I was glad that we had an audience to hear that also. So I think that, thank you. Was it Catherine, did you organize this? Yeah, well, thank you, because I thought it was very valuable.
Thank you, Commissioner Damsker. Next up is the approval for the construction of the power line trail. While we aren't anticipating the power line trail to begin construction until 2025, as we talked about earlier this evening, we are starting to seek funding for the project. So we do need to pass this resolution. And we're excited to pass the resolution because we're excited about the trail. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution 06-2023, construction of the power line trail?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I will now turn the meeting over to Commissioner Simularo.
Thank you. Number 15, we have a motion to approve, a motion to approve Resolution 05-2023, extending the WQIP intergovernmental agreement as an alternative to the EPA phosphorus TMDL, which is the total maximum daily limit. And we already included the partnership monies for that in the budget this year, so that's already allotted this year.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Yes. Bill? Yes.
Yeah.
Motion to participate in the proposed
Agreement.
Correct. Yes.
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 Actually, an extension as well. We've done it probably 4 or 5 times since 2015.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
The next motion is to approve the manhole grouting and SIP repair project by CoStar Vendor Utility Services Group in the amount of $52,580. And by doing this, the grouting, excuse me, and the SIP repairs, what's going to happen is doing those repairs will actually save us from treating 21 million gallons a year of groundwater. So it's a very important project.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Simularo. Moving on to our open and closed invoices. Do we have a motion to approve the February 2023 open invoices?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Deanna, will you do the roll call?
President Hull,
Aye.
Vice President Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Simularo,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsker.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Do we have a motion to approve the February 2023 paid invoices?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Deanna, will you do the roll call?
President Hull,
Aye.
Vice President Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Simularo,
Aye.
Commissioner Damsker.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Does anyone on the board have anything else tonight? In that case, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and the meeting is adjourned.